Hi, I'm Chris from Tennis Warehouse and I'm here at Head's headquarters in Kennelbach, Austria, and Ralph is going to take us inside and show us how a racket is made. But Ralph, before we head in, give us a little bit of the history of Head here.
A little bit of history is kind of difficult because we have 45 years of history producing rackets here in this area. So you can really call this location here the cradle of head tennis, and it still is the cradle of head tennis because all the prototypes are produced here. So, and of course also some legendary frames.
Rackets like the Arthur Ashe competition, which was the first Head racket to win a Grand Slam, were made right here. Today, the factory is used to develop new prototypes, which are perfected here before becoming inline models. Okay, Ralph, this is the first step of the process. What are we going to check out here?
Well, this is kind of the magic key because it's the key to our material storage. So all the material is stored in a cool place to make sure that the resin doesn't harden out. So let's have a look inside.
How cold is it in here?
It's minus 16 degrees, so it's about, I think, 0 degree Fahrenheit. So pretty chilly.
Okay.
Wow. Ah, yeah, it is
It's
freezing. I think that's one of the reasons why I started working in tennis sport and not in the ski department. No, just joking. I never was a good skier, but really, I mean, this is for us a luxury because we have a nice room to store all the materials here. So if we want to test different materials from different suppliers, we can get them, store them here, make some prototype frames. But yeah, it's a nice place, but it's good to get outside.
From the cold of the storage room, we walk right into the warmth of Head's racket heritage. This is the part of the operation where Head's racket successes have come to life. You can feel the history in here. As you take it all in, it gives one those electric kind of goosebumps compared to the cold ones of just a moment ago.
I think what hardly a lot of people know about is that carbon fiber are available in a wide different range of quality. And let's say quality is maybe the wrong word, simply you have different types. So first off, there are different suppliers. So really, let's say cheaper or more expensive. We only source from the best companies, Toray, Mitsubishi. But even there, they have a wide different range of carbon fibers, stiff fibers, strong fibers. So different kind of specialized fibers.
And here it is in a spool format. And
exactly.
What makes this different down here?
What makes this different? Very good question. If you look at this material, it's very stiff, but you can hardly imagine how to build a racket out of this. So here, this is carbon fiber, but it's impregnated with resin. That's why we call it prepreg. And the fibers here are unidirectional. So you see that the fibers all run in one direction. And let's make simply a short test. You know, I pull the fibers in the direction, this direction, you know, the force, and I hardly can pull it. And going perpendicular to the fiber, you see how it opens up. So we have a stiffness in the fiber direction extremely high, perpendicular very low. That's why it's so important to optimize the angle of the fibers.
To give you an idea of how the location, shape, and fiber direction of the prepreg pieces affects the playability of a racket, Ralph and I have different options laid out on this table. The prepreg is represented by different shapes and colors of paper. Each color of paper represents a different fiber direction, which will change the stiffness of the racket as it is swapped out with different pieces.
You see, okay, we got around 15 different pieces, all are now with the red angle. Now, we can start and have, well, here, this would be a different racket, because this one would have a different angle, would have a different stiffness. Now we can continue, of course, and go with this one, other one. Then we can continue and change here to yellow. Continue here and change to yellow. That's another one. Of course, we also have to make this again. So we make the red again here. So you realize it's starting to become pretty fussy. So we have versions and versions and options. I think we haven't not to go through all these versions, but in the end, it's more than 420 billion different versions having these 15 pieces and having these different angles. So it just shows all these rackets would have the same mass distribution, but slightly different stiffnesses or widely different stiffness and thereby different playability. So this is where on the one side we need expertise, simulation, and on the other side, the 45 years of experience in making tennis rackets.
So all those different options out of one mold?
Exactly, all different options, all with the same material. And this brings us back to the material. Material is important. But it's very important how to use the material, because if you got 420 billion options, well, you better think about which one you choose.
After Ralph and I have explored different layup options with paper, it's time to watch a master do it for real. Here, the pre-cut pieces of prepreg are laid out on a table in specific locations. This process forms the layup and will determine the stiffness and strength of each part of the racket. First, the backing paper must be removed from the prepreg, which is not such an easy task due to the tackiness of the material. With the layup complete, some double-sided tape is applied along one edge. A nylon tube is then added to form a bladder, which will help press the material against the mold to give the correct shape to the racket frame. The double-sided tape helps hold the bladder in place so that the prepreg layup can be transferred to a machine to be rolled into a tube. Depending on the racket being made, the diameter of the tube varies, and this one is a perfect size for a head speed MP. We take what will eventually become a speed MP to the molding room, where the racket will start to take shape. It takes a skilled and careful hand to prep the racket.
Really, it's very important to have these guys. Craftsmanship is really, talking about tennis rackets, really important, especially if we talk about development, doing prototypes. It's so important to get the feedback from the guys, what is working, what is not working well. And yeah, this is absolutely, you can have whatever university degree these guys have experienced, so don't mess up with that.
Here, Silvio applies over 35 years of experience to craft the racket. Before shaping the racket, additional pieces of prepreg are placed in key areas of the shaper. The tube of prepreg has been slightly heated to make it more pliable, but it's still difficult to work with. Silvio then carefully forms the racket into shape, removing excess material at the handle and inserts an adapter into the bladder. Some additional pieces of prepreg are applied to the handle of the racket, along with weights to help bring the racket to the correct specification.
So Silvio is bringing now over the pre-shaped racket, pre-formed, and now he puts it into the mold. And this is where it's so important that the size of the pre-forming actually fits to the actual size of the mold. Otherwise you have wrinkles or you have other problems. So this is really where the, let's say, small details are important.
And then at the same time you're forcing air in through the handle area.
Pressurized air is pushed into the bladder, the transparent bladder. So the bladder expands, pushes all the carbon fibers to the mold, and then the resin hardens out. The resin first, if you heat it, becomes very liquid, so it flows everywhere, viscosity going down, and after some minutes it starts to harden out, and when the resin really hardens out, then this is where we kind of bake a tennis racket. So now you will need a glove.
It's still going to be pretty hot when it comes out?
So this is now the cured racket. And Silvio will hand it over to us. Pay attention, it's still hot. Now what we see here on the outside is what we call the resin flow. This is actually a good sign because it only shows that there is enough resin inside. And yeah, I have to admit, we prefer our rackets to be well done. Nothing medium or English, not really good.
That's hot, man. I can feel it through the glove.
Yeah, and the resin later on will be removed, cut away. So of course this looks a bit raw, but yeah, you can play tennis with it, no problem.
It's amazing to hold and see how the racket has already come to shape. From here, a production racket would be cleaned up and ready for paint and decals. However, as Head does with their prototype rackets, we're going to leave this one with a bare graphite finish. Ralph, it's cooled down now. It's actually looking like a racket. What are the next steps?
Next steps are first that we will cut away the resin overflow. We will sand it. We will drill the holes for the grommets. We will attach a handle, put grommets inside and string it, and then you can go out on the court and have a hit with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for teaching us how a racket is made, and looking forward to getting out and giving this one a whirl. What was only sheets of prepreg and a cooler this morning is now a fully finished and hittable racket. And how does it play? Great. I have a deepened respect for the skill, care, and attention to detail which has gone into every step of creating this racket. To be hitting it on a beautiful afternoon here at Head's headquarters in Kennelbach is a dream come true.